Erwin, thanks so much for joining us. Finally, good to get you on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you do.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So, what have you got for us today?
So it's probably going to be a bit random in a couple different directions, but I want to go through a little bit what I went through. And went through sounds really rough, but in terms of like the theory of the game and thinking about the game and the environments I've been in and how they influence my thought process and some of the language that comes with that. So I want to go over that structure and then if any questions come from that, then I'll show some clips that kind of come with that. So some of it might be a little different and very basic, but I think the overarching thing to me is that 5 years ago I was way more jargon, way more big sayings and things that didn't really make sense. And now I really simplified my own thought process and how we teach the team. So I'll show some slides and then some videos, and then again up for any questions after that.
Brilliant.
I think I feel like everybody's saying this prior to starting, but again, this is obviously my thought process, and it's definitely not the one way, and it's definitely my way, and I stand by it. But I want to make sure I say that. All right. So the first thing I think that I want to talk about is some of the language that I've used 5 years ago, and the language we all see and read in books and on webinars, and for the same moments in the game and the same principles. We all use different terminology, and a lot of that terminology is, I think, to make ourselves look better and sound smarter. And I think it just clocks an understanding with our players, but also within staffs and within coaches. So, myself, I've gone over the last years just back from, really cool terms and making myself sound good and making myself feel good. And I read this new thing and Pep Guardiola this, and to really the basics and the general concepts. So what I think the problem is now, and just seeing all these game model presentations and all this, is the outside information kind of clogs it, brings it into the office, and everybody in the office, whatever staff you're with, brings all this, all these different terms for the same simple thing. And then you go to the training field, and that terminology changes again because you're coaching and it all has to be quick. And then the game is completely different. And I think that clocks players' minds. I think that makes a hard game even harder. So what I'm trying to get to is that the on-paper language, so the game models that everybody's talking about and writing down, or the planning before seasons, to me should be the actual language we use on the field and in games. So whatever happens, whatever is put on paper, whatever we talk about on a day-to-day basis in the office is actually something we would say on the training field and also in games. Without, we all know some of these terms that, they might sound good on paper, but we would never ever use them in games. And down the line, language is there to help a group or an individual do something you want them to do, not to sound better than it actually is. So my philosophy, and I'll go with that a little bit in a sec, but what actually happens in games. So our college game at Indiana University and the Big Ten and some of our out-of-conference games is completely different than what we're reading about most of the time. What happens in the Premier League or in Spain, it's completely, and even the NWSL, it's different. The game is different. And so to actually determine what happens in games, you're going to watch the game and you're going to observe like what moments happening in the games and not just grab other models from different leagues and different standards and use that. And then who we're working with, and not just in terms of level or females or males, it's in general. It's like their understanding of concepts. How have they been taught? What culture are we working in? So for me, obviously, that's completely different working in the college game or back in the day NWSL. It's the level of understanding and the level of dedication is different, and we have to understand that. So to create a little bit more simplicity, I think in what we're trying to do and how we're trying to accomplish things is I think this slide, and for me this sums it up. And when this happens, so I'll go in that in a second, but we do this to accomplish this a certain way, this way, and the when, the what, the why, and the how, all that stuff. So I try to simplify that a little bit to make sure that everything we do and teach is based on this concept. So again, when this happens, and I'll show a little bit of an example in a second, we do this to accomplish something, the why, and how we do it is the detail. And people use principles or sub-principles or technical execute, whatever that may be, is how we do it. So for me, and you know, this is, again, it's personal, and the only non-negotiable in my philosophy is that when we have the ball, we control the ball, and that's it. And I know there's different ways to score goals and move the ball to the field, and I fully agree with all those. But for me, and from what I like to teach and what I think I know better than anything else, is and also the benefits of controlling the ball is the only non-negotiable. Everything else is up for grabs. So based on the players we have, based on the season, based on whatever the club you're working with or the team you're working with, the culture, you know, I think that varies. But for me, the only non-negotiable that I have is that we control the ball. And you can, you know, for me, control is obviously a broad term, but it's we have possession of the ball, we control the ball, it's on the ground most of the time, and we have clear possession. So it's not consistently fighting for second balls or 50-50s. Nothing wrong with that. We do that as well. But when we have it, we don't want to get in that moment. So my way to install a way of playing, and I say my way is our way with our staff, not too many options. So too many options obviously clog things. I think it makes things harder. Simplicity. I think simplicity in what we do. Clear language, like I talked about earlier, and then the detail comes from the how. So the detail doesn't come early on, or the jargon doesn't come early on. The detail really comes later. So to dive into that a little bit, a plan, which is always adjustable. So there's got to be a plan, a clear plan. I think gives the team confidence, gives the staff confidence. Terminology for the tasks in the plan. So again, clear terminology is really important. Consistent terminology. So not like one day you say defensive organization and the next day you use a completely different term. I think that has to stay consistent, and that's obviously the hardest part with all the external influences of social media and video and all that stuff. Clear terminology, I think that it's similar. It's something that is not too much jargon. It's very clear. It's short. It's concise, or it makes sense, or it sticks. So it or makes sense, or it's something that sticks. So it could be like a one word. It could be, you know, 2 or 3 words, but something that is very sticks with the players, and they associate an action with that word. And then the terminology that works in the office, on the training field, and in games. I think that's the biggest difference. That, you know, it's something that we're not talking about one thing in the office and then we go in the training field and we're using completely different terms, because that's when every coach starts using different terms, and then the players, you know, I think it makes it all harder. So what I want to show is that there is a language for the when, the language for the what, and the language for the how. So the language for the when, and this is a little different than the most models you I think see. I want to talk about, so instead of having defending, attacking, possession, whatever that is, we just won the ball, we have the ball, we just lost the ball, they have the ball. I think it's easier terms, it's simple, there's a structure to it, and then there's chaos. So obviously, chaos is basically anytime the ball is not in possession of one of the teams, it's chaos. So the moment after a clearance, a long ball by the other team that's not to a certain player, or any ball bouncing in between two players. So chaos, a goal kick by a goalkeeper, that goes long. Chaos moments, I think, are super important, and they probably happen more than anything else in the games we play. The language for the what, and it seems very, very simple and basic, but the three defensive terms we use, and I've used now for a little bit of time, is press, shape, and organize. It's simple. Again, it's terms that you would use, on game day, but also in the office. And I think it will stick with our players more so than maybe some of the other terms. Attack and keep it. I know it seems super basic, and especially keep it is it's I think now we have the possession with a purpose, whatever. But at the level we work at, and the level I work at, is that if you keep it long enough, and if you get enough numbers in around the ball, there's going to be opportunities for us to play forward. And playing forward then becomes attacking. So anytime we want somebody to take space or pass forward or go 1v1, it's attacking it. If not, it's keeping it. So those two situations are also terminology that we can coach the players from the sideline, or they can coach each other during the game. And then be ready is a big one. That's basically be ready for what happens next. So we have the ball high up in the final third, where if I or one of our coaches or the players say be ready, basically mean that we're defending in possession, we're set up that just in case we lose the ball. And that happens obviously often. And the same happens that if we're defending, we're also being ready to attack for the counterattack. So being ready is critical. It's anticipation, it's reaction. But be ready kind of encompasses it all and kind of makes things simpler. The language for, sorry about these messages, language for how we do what we do. And this is just an example. So the when, like I talked about, is we have the ball. The what is attack. Again, very, very broad. And then the how is to step in, to turn, to turn twice, but to pass forward, whatever that may be, is how we attack. 1v1, early crosses, whatever that may be, and then the real detail comes in the execution. So again, it's the simplicity of the language, and the real detail comes in the final piece, and most of that is really technical or tactical, where some body positioning, some scanning, some receiving, the detail of how to cross the ball, where to cross the ball, all that stuff. So I want to go through kind of the model we use, or I've used, and again, I think you're going to see some real, simple terminology that might seem too basic. But again, I think it's useful to be simple this way. So chaos, the game is obviously very chaotic, especially the level we work at, and the college game with the substitution and the patterns, and just the level itself. A lot of chaos moments, so it's key for us to win a majority of this to gain possession. So, but let's just say we just won one of these chaos moments. We just won the ball. So. Simple, we just won the ball. There's really two options. There's attack, or we can keep it. It's simple, and the benefit of the simplicity of these two options is that I can tell, or one player can tell the person next to them to either attack, which means, hey, let's go to goal and try to score, or just to keep possession. And keep it is safe, it's 100% passes, and based on obviously the opponent, the score, time of the game, the weather, field, whatever outside influences come in, or the plan for that game. But these are the two options. If let's say we decided to keep the ball, it becomes we have the ball. Now we have clear possession of the ball. We have the ball. we want to go attack. Obviously, the keeping it piece, we've kept the ball, we want to attack. So anytime we keeping it and moving the ball, we're basically trying to find moments to go attack. So whether that's lateral passing or passing backwards to create openings, but anytime we pass the ball or dribble the ball, we're looking to attack. So we're looking for space to go forward by dribbling or passing. While that happens, while we have the ball, we're being ready. We're being ready just in case we lose the ball. So for us, the big thing is numbers, and that's a little bit of the how. But for us to be ready to lose the ball is having numbers around the ball, staying close together, which obviously benefits us keeping the ball because we have so many numbers, but also benefits us just in case we lose the ball. We're pretty close. So let's say we just lost the ball. There's two decisions again. Press again. We can easily say counter pressing, but then again, the counter piece I think becomes irrelevant. We just lost the ball. Our decision is to press or to organize, and that it's a counter or that it's exploiting the other team when they're unbalanced. It is what it is. I think that's why we're doing it. Why we might go press or why we might go counterattack. It doesn't matter. I think the simplicity of me telling or one of our players telling the player next to them to organize or to press or as a team or as a staff to communicate with the players. I think the simplicity of the term will aid into an understanding and a better execution. So let's say we just, we couldn't press or we pressed and we didn't win it and we had to organize. So we organize basically means get everybody behind the ball, wherever that may be. Protecting our goal, don't get scored on. We organize, we're set up. That means they have the ball. The other team has the ball. The first thing we use shape. Shape basically means, and the how comes after this, but it's close in the middle, force the other team to go to the sideline, establish pressure on the ball at some point, and while we're in our shape, while we're in our defensive shape, we're actively looking for pressing moments. So we're actively looking and waiting to create pressing moments that we obviously have discussed and talked about. So once that happens, we press. Again, the press is the same term as that we use after we lose the ball. Nothing different, and it's basically we press with the determination to win the ball and to go to goal and score. When we're in our shape, defending, we're protecting, and while we're protecting, we're establishing pressing moments. So we're waiting for the right time, but we're always in mind that we're protecting the space behind us, we're protecting the space through us, and we're giving maybe up some of the space around us or on the sides, but we're stopping the other team from getting closer to our goal. And then press, again, be ready. If while we're in our shape, while we're pressing, especially maybe on the weak side, let's be ready that if we win the ball, we're ready to attack. And that's why that's how this model ties together. So again, we're pressing, let's say we're effective in that, we win the ball, we just won the ball, we go attack. So that structure is kind of how I dummied it down from like a few years ago, and not dumbing it down. I think for our players, because they might not understand, they do. But I think the language that we put on this paper is the same as what we would communicate from the sideline, how players hold each other accountable, and then just the clarity of what we're actually talking about, and basically aiding in making a really, really complicated game with a lot of chaos and a lot of moments anyway, as simple as possible. So I want to show some clips that will kind of show these moments and kind of show you a little bit of what we do as well and how we go about it. So again, you'll clearly see, and you see some clips, and obviously I don't pick clips of the worst things we've done, but I want to show kind of for each moment in the game, I want to show you a clip of kind of what we what we mean with what these moments. So we just won the ball again. We're playing Penn State here. We win the ball. We just won the ball. The thought process here and the terminology and the language from the bench, from the players to each other will be to attack. We don't need to go into that this is a counter, the other team is imbalanced and all that stuff. That stuff is, so counter attack is too long to say, attack. So if we win the ball here, we don't need to get in anything else than me telling, or if I'm this player, I'm telling her attack. That's it. There's no other language that is needed. Now, if we wanted to keep the ball, we say keep it. It's as simple. It doesn't have to be the lengthy terminology with crazy detail. Simple, effective language. Maybe a name and a term, but that's it. So again, we're the attack. We're attacking. We're going to goal. The how is obviously what we want to do of how we attacking this. So. And the attack here, the detail in how we're attacking is nothing different than attacking in when we have the ball. So this is probably a clip that I think shows the best way of what we try to do last year, and I think you'll see some of the keep it. In this, but the terms that will be used here is keep it and attack. So we just won the ball, so we obviously just won possession of the ball. The moment has changed now into we have the ball, but because we're deciding to keep it, and now we have the ball basically goes back and forth to keep it and attack. And I think the term keep it here shows the patience. We lost this game, but this resulted in a nice goal, 25 passes. And I'm saying that just because I think it is possible, even in the college game, with a clear structure and a clear thought process behind it, that there can be sequences like this. And this is not the only one, it's just the only one we scored from. So, not sure why this doesn't say, but similar concept. Again, the terminology, and I'll show you a little bit in a second. Like some of the other terms and language that's used, it's beyond keep it and attack. Term, time, man, on all that stuff we still use. But I think the simplicity of the big picture stuff and the big picture language has to be clear. And the clearer that is, the better the understanding, the better the training exercises, and then and also confidence. I think confidence in what we do and understanding what we do is huge. So we have the ball, I think here, like you might, and here you see keep it, attack, and third man concept. I think, I don't know if we would, but I've never used third man as a language I would use in games. I think that's a rhythm and understanding you train that is not coached, or it's not even, players won't communicate that with each other. It's maybe a layoff or somebody coming underneath. Maybe somebody telling somebody else to start moving, but we wouldn't use that. I would use the third man concept as an explanation or, with what it is. So again, we have the ball, we're trying to keep it, we're attacking at the right time. Using the third man here obviously is a concept we would use, and is trained. Similar here, so, and I'm not just showing this for no reason, I'm just showing this so that where that concept falls into the order of teaching. So we just lost the ball. What we did last year a ton, before I took over, I was looking at some of the games from the past season, took over at Indiana, looking at some of the organization and the structure and kind of where some goals were conceded and kind of what we had available to us, the players, and how we can make and how I can make the biggest change. And we decided that 9 out of the 10 times that we lost the ball, outside of some scenarios, we organize and we get behind the ball, and we did not give up any goals from defensive organization, from being organized behind the ball. So again, I just used defensive organization. So there we go. But again, we lose the ball here, and I think you see the simplicity of what needs to happen. And I would say every coach on here would decide to get back and organize and not to press this. Because this might not be the best time to press, but we give the ball away here. But I think you see the clear reaction of our team here to organize, to get behind the ball. Trained well and understanding of what we do aids into now having, 7 players in front of the ball to having 10 players behind the ball. It's obviously in our games where a lot of transition happens, a lot of moments of losing the ball, winning the ball happens. Really, really important. So again, this one is obviously a different area of the field. Here and the scenario of are we set up to press this or organize this? Here we decide to maybe get back, press the ball a little bit. But again, the language used is organize or press. They have the ball, so again, last year we defended pretty deep and for the most part, try to make it awkward for teams with a lot of numbers behind the ball. Is that my ideal philosophy of how I want a team to play, or when I sit in the stands to see? No, it's not, but we decided that this was the best thing to do for our team that time. So again, you see clear, they have the ball, we're in our shape, we got 10 players, goalkeeper and 9 field players behind the ball, we're close in the middle of the field, we're giving away the outside. Posture of the players, I think that's where, again, comes the detail, comes in, how we're going to defend, what angle we're going to defend in, what are we giving away, what communication are we using. But I think it's pretty clear, and we're giving away the spaces that they can score from. So again, we're defending we're in white here, so here again, shape is we're protecting ourselves, so we're protecting the space behind us. We're protecting the space between our lines and the space through our lines, and we're giving away maybe the wide areas. The wide areas is also those are the areas we would like to press the ball and we'd like to establish pressing moments in. So here you see it. I think our forward here does a really good job of sliding over at the right time. We're protecting ourselves, so we're defending well. We're picking it off, and this is the time we have, I would say, 5 players against their 3. We just won the ball. I should have clipped that last piece out. So again, let me get back to. So again, attack, keep it, be ready, press, organize, and shape. Those are really the things we need to train in everyday training sessions. The detail, the how, is really where we use most of our energy.
You all set?
Yeah, good.
Okay, yeah, coaches, if you just want to put a few, there's a few questions coming in, and I'll get to them. If you want to start loading them up, going ahead. I want to ask you about the chaos word. And you mentioned language. Chaos is a word that I've spoken to a few people before in the past year. Like it is what the game we play over here. It is realistic to the game. There's so much chaos once the sessions unfold. But training is set up so tidy and clear today. So do you adjust your environment on a daily basis to add a little bit more chaos in there and a bit more messy with your exercises?
Yeah, more playing, more actual games. So, I think obviously the smaller the field is compared to the number of players, the more chaos moments. But I think it's got to be realistic. It's got to be the same kind of moments that happens in the game. So I think the more realistic the game is to the actual game, you'll find those moments. So I think I wouldn't. We obviously have seen some coaches online and stuff that will recreate those chaos moments and winning duels and all that stuff. But I haven't, and we just simply don't have the time for that. But winning those moments and those chaos moments in training is really, really important, and we'll get on that as well as a staff and me as well.
How important is it? And just before we start recording, we talked about Caleb Porter and how he's kind of moved. But you've said at the start that you moved your philosophy and language. You also said towards the end that you moved your philosophy with your shape last year, not your preferred one, but what you felt you had to do. I mean, how as much as we talk about people like Guardiola being consistent in what they do every day and every year, how important is it for a coach to be flexible, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think some things you have to be flexible, and I think you have to look at the college game is so different than what happens at a lot of levels. Just because I don't have data with it, but the amount of moments of winning the ball and losing the ball is so much more. Whether it's technical inability, the thought process that we just have to run around like crazy, the substitution patterns, and nothing wrong with that. It's just part of it. So I think that's where my like I would love to have the ball forever, lose it high up the field, win it back high up the field, and go like that. It's just us preparing, being ready to lose the ball and win the ball is so critical, and it's critical at every level, but for us even more so. And again, the speed of the ball compared to the speed of our female athletes is not as great as what we see at Men's City, right? So our positioning in possession, it's not realistic. The ball moves pretty much, I don't want to say the same pace as John Stones passed the ball, right? But it's at a good pace. But the speed of recovery is not even close. So we can't do the same things, and even at that level, because of the opponent and stuff, they don't do that. So I think I've gone away from, I grew up with, in possession, you make the field as big and as long as possible, and your passes are as long as possible. Don't even get close to the ball. Spread out, right? That's completely changed. Maybe because of the game itself, and we all have a better understanding, but also the environment I'm working in.
All right, brilliant. Couple of questions here. Danielle has asked, if you were to go back into the NWSL, say as a head coach, would you consistently stay with this language model, or would you move it?
Absolutely. And I think just because they're a higher level of player doesn't mean they need a higher level or more jargon. They like simplicity as well, and I don't need to create respect from, to show everybody that I read books or that I know, these guys use this term or use a term that's translated out of Spanish, and I'm going to implement. Everybody wants to be on the same page. Everybody wants to know what they're doing, and everybody wants to feel good coming out of a training session. And that's not what I think. The real respect comes from the detail, and the NWSL players, they want that detail, and that's where you can give your understanding or knowledge, and some of them might have more knowledge than us. But I think that's, our job is to make the game simpler and to create a better understanding of what we do and when we do it and how we do it, and nothing else. It's not to, I talked to Kieran from Duke earlier, and we were talking about, kind of over the last 5 years, how things have changed. And it's basically, instead of adding stuff by developing ourselves or developing players, we've taken away stuff. Just taking away stuff, make the game clearer and simpler, less jargon, and create a better understanding.
Bruce Lee, hacking away at the inessential. Diana has asked about, practicing that there in the imperfect world of college soccer, where you've got those 2 games a week and it might be a flight and a day travel, a day recovery, basically lack of practice time. How do you overcome that?
Or the games is our practice, right? We try to win those practices, those games, but and maybe I don't want to go away from that answer, but even the 2 games a week and some of that stuff, even the physical, the way we play, and the way we defend and the way we organize ourselves is also based on the physical component of playing 2 games a week and the number of substitutions we use. So some of my philosophy is also based on some of those components. But again, the training piece is hard. It's like, if we have 2 games a week, video, individual video, team video, like Jesse Mars was saying the other day, right? It's like, I do think that we have to, we don't work with professional athletes, so we can't do hours of video, right? We do about 20, 25 minutes of video every single day. I would say, we're more in the pool than and in the video room than actually on the field. But you can learn so much from games and watching it back.
How often are your players in the weights room?
So last year we incorporated some of that stuff in our warm-ups. So we have a great sports science and strength department who's done an unbelievable job. And last year we probably spent another 10 minutes of every single warm-up every day of doing some strength or speed stuff. I think this year we might spend 1 day in the weight room, and again, my knowledge is limited there, and Alex was on our staff, and our strength coach Dustin, and we have a sports scientist. They program all of that, and I kind of I read some stuff here and there, but we'll probably go once a week, even with 2 games into the weight room, whether it's for recovery purposes or maintaining strength and power. But they have explained the purpose to me, and I'm on board.
We find that whenever, again, in the college world, we want this communication piece, because it is such a transitional game. Energy is such a most important commodity, probably most teams. So we want communication leadership. Do you think by obviously scaling down the jargon and maybe you expose the players to a little bit more understanding on their level, have you seen an increase in player-to-player communication?
Yeah, I think so. And to be fair, I'm presenting this now. I was like, oh, this is what we did all year last year. We didn't, right? I've tweaked a ton in the off season, and this is now going into the next season. So some of this has already changed. But at some point, this becomes, and I've talked to Todd Yeagley, our men's coach here, a bunch, and what they do, there's so much consistency and culture behind their terminology that it's like, the new guys coming in, it's like, hey, this is what we do, right? And this is what we do. Can't, if you change every day, that doesn't stick. So I think that piece of not even having to go over this every single time, and basically whatever 6-7 players leave the program because they graduate, a new group comes in, and they basically get taught, hey, when we lose the ball, we got 2 options, and we use these terms for that. And it's simple and it's concise. And even if one of our players can teach one of the new players without jargon, without any extra language, that is the ultimate goal. And then again, the real detail and how we develop as a program comes into how we do it. the way we defend, the way we receive the ball, the way we pass the ball. That's, to me, the execution of what we do.
Tyler has asked, your commitment to play the way you want to play is very evident. I would argue that a lot of coaches like the idea of controlling the ball, but are very committed to it when the game is on the line, which then results in chaos. Why do you think this is?
Well, I think the hard part, I think it doesn't have to be either or. And Gary, we were talking about this earlier, right? Once you get into put my own nerve, like I would, and this when we build up, I don't feel ever the need of saying, or I'm never worried about losing the ball. I'm worried about a positioning that in case we lose it, but I'm not worried. That's my job and our staff's job to organize our team, that if we lose it, we're protected and we're okay. Like I showed that clip earlier, that when we lost it in build up, we were okay. We got a goal scored on this year by our goalkeeper, basically opening up in a 6-yard box against Nebraska. And it's okay. I didn't lose my mind. Didn't show it in team video. It's part of what we do. It's part of the simplicity. And we have the ball, we keep it, and we look to attack. There's we're 1-0 up in the 90th minute, right? With 20 seconds to go. Or we're going to play it back to a goalkeeper. No, we're not, right? But the default is that we're going to keep the ball. We're going to attack space. We're going to control the ball. And I stick with that. And it's just the consistency of that, I think, helps in players understanding. Like you see some of these sequences that doesn't come from not understanding each other. It knows that, hey, we're going to try to pass it to the next player. And I think that just aids in the style of play. And anytime you go into, I become nervous on the bench and like, hey guys, if it gets too tight and stuff, get it out or whatever, then maybe that helps in that moment, but then I'm lost for the next couple of games because that becomes a solution. Same thing with a long ball, right? If I'm saying that, hey, now and then keep the other team honest, play a long ball, then it becomes an option. Most of the players will use that option more so than passing it short or close or inside the 18. And I think we can be very successful in the players we recruit and what I like to teach and what I like to see and what I like, people to see our brand and our program as a certain way of playing. And it's not either or. It's not either this or winning or either. I feel we have a responsibility to the game in some sense because women's college soccer is a pathway to the pros wherever it is in the world. So there is it's not just 4 years, come in and try to win some games and kick some balls as hard as you can and run after it. There's more to it. And then it's just the fun in playing. Like there's nothing better than a string of 24 passes and scoring a goal, or even 24 passes with great rhythm and feeling to it. Like there's nothing better than that. Or being organized defensively where the other team has no clue where to go. Or being so close that when you lose the ball that you can press it and win it back real quick. Like that even players that might not think about the game as much as we do, I think they would love that too and enjoy that.
Yeah, the big thing for me that stood out in that clip with the goal was the fact that it was 0-0 at the time. And sometimes you see these string of college passes, 40 passes into the goal, and they're 6-0 up. And it's easier to do that there because the game naturally slows down. But because of the game, and I've been away from college for 2 years, but I think college is a lot more difficult to coach that attacking organization because of the culture of teams. Like it's March Madness every Friday and Sunday, so that there breeds an impatient. And
yeah,
I mean, I suppose what I would ask then was, when you start games, do you try to put your team in a place where they're not flying all over the place and they're able to make decisions, or do you jump into the chaos of college environments and say, I'm going to rah my way through this as well?
Well, if you see me on the sideline, you think I'm jumping in straight into the chaos as well. But no, it's what we promote. Like this clip, 15 minutes, we lose that game 2-1. And we probably could have been in, 2-0 up early to that point. But I think them understanding what we're trying to do, we just pass it to the open player, keeping the ball, looking for the right time to attack. Simple. it's simple, and teams are going to defend that well, and then we just have to get a little bit better. And Nebraska and Carolina were the two teams that pressed us with close to even numbers, and we struggled. And most of the time, we probably used too many players for the build-up, right? And people say, "Oh, you got to be +1." No, at times we were +3. It was great because we were able to keep the ball. The other team can score when we have the ball. We're able to be in control of it and move the ball to the field. Obviously, when you're down a goal, it becomes harder. It's all a little different. But I think some of the situations, like the +1 rule to me is kind of like, yes, makes sense at a higher level. Makes 100% sense at a top level. But at our level, to have a +2 or +3 closer on the ball means we're going to keep it because we have extra options, and we're just going to be patient, and we create confidence and rhythm by having open players. And also, if we had losing my mind here, but because we haven't seen the Premier League, but the Man City goalkeeper, if we had the Man City goalkeeper that could play a 70-yarder, there's not many players at our level, men's and women's, but in the college game that can play a 70-yard pass over the back line. So if we don't have the ability to beat a high press by playing an accurate 70-yard pass, why would we even try it? Because it's 50-50. And if that's the goal, if that's the plan, I fully understand it. Hit a long ball, win the second ball, but that's not what we do. So
Max has asked a good one on the language, and not particularly in jargon, but do you think whenever coaches refer to players as numbers, they are guilty of overcomplicating the game as well?
So like positional numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. It drives me insane. It drives me insane. And we grew up with it. I grew up with it in Holland, right? We all the numbers were set because every single team played the same way. Like we all had the same, it was the same structure in the same way. But that is changed in Holland. It's changed everywhere. And it's not like, I'm sure in England, right? In Ireland, they had the same concepts and the same structure because everybody was playing a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, and it was the same structure. Now it's different. So I think that doesn't make sense. The problem to me is if they come into our environment and we have a structure in place for the positional numbers, that structure that they've been taught in club now conflicts with what we do, and even in their mind, and it's probably going to hang on for the next 2 years. And I wouldn't even dare to say like a false 9 or a 9 or like some of that stuff on the sideline. I'd feel embarrassed. But and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I think it doesn't help clarity.
Do you provide any information when the players are coming in to try and get them into you're away from them now, a lot of Zooms going on. Are you giving them that information before they arrive, the new player?
Yeah, for sure. And we're actually starting up layering a lot of this stuff and terminology and trying to incorporate some of the new players. And there's only so much you can do without the feeling of actually executing it. But the overall structure, the overall terminology, I think we can do some interactive stuff with our team and implement some of these concepts and terminology pretty easily. And I think they're all like that as well. The feeling of coming into preseason and kind of knowing, okay, what is the language we're using now? Going from on paper and in Zoom meetings to actually playing in tight situations and tough situations and using certain language, that's a whole nother process. And that's why I think the simplicity of the language, because I've played and I couldn't talk and play at the same time. I had no clue what was going on around me. I can basically do my own job. And then if I had to communicate with other players at the same time, I was lost. Right? So I think making the communication easier and the understanding easier, I think helps playing at a high level and communicating and holding teammates accountable easier.
Rob has asked a good one. I was talking to this to Bev Priestman yesterday. When you go into overtime, do you have something planned for every game? If this match goes to overtime, what you're going to say to your team?
No. Sorry I don't. It's all situational. We went into Michigan on the road this year, and we were 0-0. Michigan was, I think, one of the better teams. I think they got to the Sweet 16 this year. I'm like, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep a clean sheet. I think that's different. I think the scenario of where you are in the season, do you need a win, or is an RPI tie on the road, is that beneficial? So I think that's where it comes in. But yeah, nothing. Hopefully, I wish they would cancel it over time.
Yeah, I hear it. That's why I said that they were saying that they had everything in England planned out for. It was the worst 2 minutes in my season. Sarah has asked a good one here. Would you consider yourself a better manager or a better leader? Has this changed throughout your career?
I don't know. I've only been a head coach. Like I've been an assistant coach up to this year, right? And at Duke, I did a lot. At every place I've been, I did a lot of training and coaching. But actually being the one that's responsible for things and one having to explain some decisions, that's where I'm learning. I probably have taken the last 2 or 3 months more the time to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think we all trying to create the best possible environment to have a good time in college sports and college soccer, and have a good time and win as many games as possible. And understanding that the main concern is school. So I don't know, but it ties in. I love teaching. I love the term coaching. I think doesn't really reflect what we're trying to do, but I'm doing that a lot, right? Coaching to me is on the sideline yelling what they should be doing. Teaching is in training, making them feel it so they can execute it themselves. I think it's a I wish it was all just teaching, but I think it's a combination in between coaching, teaching, and what we try to do as a program is one of our mottos, or the motto is prepare to succeed. And we're going to make it a tough environment where you get held accountable, and it's hard, and it's going to prepare them for life. It's going to get them into any scenario, whether they want to be a lawyer or a doctor, whatever they want. They can reflect back and say, that was tough. And I get held accountable all the time by my colleagues and teammates and coaching staff. But it was so worth it, and it prepared me for forever. So,
and there's real value in that there. But where I see a problem is that you talk about language and talk about two people on different pages. Sometimes administration's definition of a student athlete experience is actually not that. So how do you, with people, and it always comes up with players who maybe don't get that playing time, and Jesse has asked that there. I mean, how difficult is that there to kind of maneuver around the experience and providing that adversity, but also making sure that they're okay?
Yeah, great question. And the only thing I control is playing time. I can control nothing else. So, any player that comes in our program is going to trust that they can get the best opportunity to play and to earn a right to play. But that's about it. So, and I tell them, you might not ever train a minute. You might not ever play a minute. Like, you don't have to be part of training. So the way you act off the field is going to earn you right to train. The way you train is going to earn you right to play. And you might not ever play a minute. And in recruiting conversations, I always say that. Yeah, and parents and potential student athletes always like, oh, you might not train. No, you're not. You don't deserve to train. Right? You don't deserve to train. And they're like, oh, crazy. And I always tell them, I said, that's crazy. Everybody trains. Right? Everybody. But if you act crazy off the field and you don't act the right way, you're not training. Right? I can decide. We as a staff decide if you train and play. That's it. To come back to your point, the playing time pieces, I think if you're honest and last year I did it too. I told a bunch of players, I said, you're never going to play here. And I could have layered that message in. I could have said, hey, there's a chance you can, work hard and do this. And if I know that a player is not going to play, why would I not tell them that? Unless I'm wrong, and then I can later on say, I was wrong, sorry.
Well, I would agree with that. I read that Mensch book over Christmas, and when I met Jonathan, I did a podcast with Jonathan, and in one of the chapters he says that the complaint with Klopp from his players in Dortmund was that he was too positive. Was that when they wanted, tell me why I'm not playing, he would just tell them, "You're doing great, keep it going." But you're doing honesty. But then do you then create, Erwin, another problem by potentially by being too honest with those players?
Oh, 100% enough. Like, but it's, that's probably like, it hurt. If you're that honest, players don't want to come in the office, right? It's a tough, like, you don't want, you're afraid to hear what actually is the truth. Like, some of them are probably happy you did not know. But I think down the line, I think, again, if we talk about preparing for life, whatever job they're going to do, they're going to, they might get fired, right, if they don't do the job. So I think that piece is where we help, and it sucks early on, and you know it. But we're going to get to a point that even if I don't have to tell them that they're never going to play, because we'll have a squad that everybody is going to have a piece of and potential to play, hopefully, right? And that's his ideal scenario. And that even if they don't play, they feel such a huge piece of what we do on and off the field and where we're going, that they can live with it.
Yeah, I'm going to stay on this. I really like this topic. We've got Robbie's on the. I don't know if he's still on it, but he was on at the start, and I always remember you saying about how your retention at Duke was unbelievable, but Robbie. And I know going into a new team, you have to. There's some players that just aren't in your plan from day one. But whenever you do recruit a player, have you taken things from Duke that are, how to keep those players on board with Robbie's style of management?
100%. Robbie is probably the most, and I understand why he's off. He probably had some technical issues, but Robbie's he's such a naturally great person, like truly caring. It's not even an act. He doesn't have to. He's just nonstop. He just truly cares. This sense of empathy. It's just. Every visit that we have, and after the day he spends with them, it's like, I'd love to play for him. It's just you get that feeling of like he truly cares. Like, I remember he hired me, and we're doing the visa paperwork, and we're going through it, and I got denied and all that stuff. And he called me and I was back at Sky Blue, and he called me every single day. Hey, how you doing? He's like, I don't care what's going to happen, how much money it's going to cost. We're going to make this happen. And when I started working for him after like getting denied twice and him going to administration to get more money to get this approved, I was like, I'm going to do whatever I can to help this program and help Robbie, right? And that's the same way it works, I think, with our players. And I'm a little different than him, and for me it's harder. I'm not naturally like Robbie is, but I 100% took that, and I'm trying to and I'm not saying it's acting. I'm just trying to do a better way of expressing my sense of empathy in a different way than Robbie did.
With regards to, again, the college environment, where there is a culture piece of everyone being part, and there's the experience that the ABs do talk about. I mean, is there things that you do off the pitch to try to get everyone along with the football piece?
Yeah, I think the more time a team spends together and gets to see the real person behind the student athlete or the coach or their natural environment, like even a team dinner at my house, and see me in a different, like anytime they get to see you in a different aspect of life outside of the field, outside of business, I think it's perfect. Like if I've spent a ton of time with our players over the last couple of months of just talking to them about lifestyle and just what their situation is, and get to know so much about them that put them in a different perspective for me as well. And the same for them, that they probably have seen, I haven't shown enough of myself, and that there's more to it than the coach. And as an assistant coach, that's easy because I could always be the let's go, let's you. And in the NWSL, it's probably easier because they don't really care about if I care for them. They care about me making them better players as an assistant coach. And now it's completely different. So I'm trying to do a good job of making sure they know that we care for them. We want them to graduate. We want them to great experience. They're healthy physically, mentally, and then also enjoying the soccer component.
That's why you get to show them your new house then when they get back, right? So,
exactly.
Last couple for you. In building the program and the way that you believe, obviously bringing Serge back was is an experienced coach, someone you've worked with before, but you've also invested in a couple of, we were talking about Alex before, you've invested in young coaches. A lot of young coaches watch this from around the world. I mean, what advice would you have for those young, like, why would you invest in a young coach? What stands out?
Well, I think, being a specialist, I think, is the biggest piece. Being a specialist, and it doesn't mean you have to have one specialty, but being good at something that, we're getting more specific about, our roles and jobs, and we can't all talk about the sports science component every day in the office. We have Emily Baston on staff, who is, I think, one of the best connectors with people and recruiters I've been around. She is not coach. She coaches clubs. She's not coached before, but she has a really good soccer brain. Hasn't really had that experience, but in terms of recruiting, it looks like she's been in the business for 20 years, right? And that's why she's on our staff. He has a really good understanding of the game, but he also has an understanding of sports science and strength and conditioning, and can kind of tie the soccer piece back to the science piece. And then obviously Sergio, with the experience, the goalkeeping component, having been in different scenarios and working with some really, really good coaches in the past, and then obviously the goalkeeping coach he is, plus on the knowledge in the field of set pieces, it's a different level. And I've tweaked some things. We had the coaches here before, and I'm trying to find my way, but we only have 3 full-time paid people. We have obviously lucky to have Alex as a volunteer. We have a director. We're lucky in that sense, but we're trying to find the best mix of the blend of things, and I give those guys the full responsibility to do their job well. And I think I know what it means that when it's good, and let them go with it. So again, to come back to the story, for young coaches, I think decide what you want to be and what you think you're good at. Like if you feel like you're going to be the person I hate to say this, but if you're a male that is a soccer guy, like a field coach, and want to run every single session, right, on a day-to-day basis, and be the brain behind the operation and really do most of the instruction as an assistant coach, good luck finding a job, right? I was lucky enough that I was in the NWSL and got a chance there, that my reputation was because I worked at that level, so I can probably do it here. But like for myself to get, as a foreigner, to have to get a visa, to be not specific in goalkeeping or science or all the other components, but really be a soccer guy and a teacher, most of the head coaches do that job and they don't want to give it away. And I was lucky to get hired at Alabama, and then with Robbie to be like, hey, come be this person for me. But there's only, how many jobs, Gary, there's only 30 jobs like that. And so that's a tough part. So I think having an understanding of maybe video analysis or recruiting and being a specialist, being somebody that's really good in something else besides the soccer piece, because obviously that's what we do, is really important, especially on relatively small staffs.
Brilliant. Erwin, top class. Absolutely brilliant. Time, love that. Bit of a great response here. I apologise there, I haven't got through all the questions, but this has been fantastic. We'd love to get you on again when hopefully the season will be rolling, and maybe we'll get you on for a review session.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Gary, and thanks for all you do, and thanks for everybody that came on.
Magic. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk.
Thanks, Gary. Talk to you.
All right, all the best, everyone. Thank you.